Did you know that for most of this year, Elon Musk or Jeff Bezos weren't the world's richest people? Instead, it was Bernard Arnault, until Musk reclaimed the top spot in June, according to Forbes. However, Arnault's journey to the top is pretty amazing. At 74, Arnault was nicknamed the Pope of Fashion and the Wolf in Cashmere because of his legendary business skills and strategies. He's the CEO of LVMH, Moet Hennessy Louis Vuitton SE, the main source of wealth for him and his family. While you might not recognize all of LVMH's brands, you're familiar with some. The family-run company owns over 70 brands, including famous names like Tiffany Co, Givenchy, Tag Heuer, Sephora, Makeup Forever, and Fendi. Many of these are legacy brands. LVMH caters to the top 1%, offering products that are pricey, unique, and often limited in quantity. In an interview with Harvard Business Review, Arnault shared how they select the products and designs they sell. He stated, "Our whole business is based on giving our artists and designers complete freedom to invent without limits. This approach has paid off for both the brand and Arnault. The story of how LVMH became the world's biggest luxury group is almost like a movie, with Arnault building his empire one brand at a time." If you're thinking he must have had an extraordinary fashion background, well, you're wrong. Arnault didn't start his career in luxury and fashion. He began in the less glamorous fields of construction and real estate, which eventually provided him with the money to dive into the luxury industry. After graduating as an engineer in 1971, Arnault joined his father's civil engineering firm, Ferret Savinel. Always looking for new ideas, Arnault convinced his father to shift the company's focus to real estate, renaming it Farinel in 1974. He became CEO in 1977 and took over as chairman in 1978. Arnault's entry into fashion and luxury began with acquiring the legendary House of Dior. Reportedly, an unexpected conversation inspired Arnault to set his sights on Dior. According to media reports, Arnault once asked a New York cab driver if he knew who France's president was at the time, but he didn't. Instead, he famously said he knew about the House of Dior. Oh, and for the record, the French president at the time was Georges Pompidou. However, Christian Dior's designs brought international fame to his fashion house from its start in the 1940s. The couture house was owned by French entrepreneur Marcel Boussac, who also owned other businesses. While Dior was doing well, Boussac's other enterprises were facing bankruptcy by the late 1970s. A 1978 Washington Post report detailed how a Paris court allowed the Willett brothers to buy the Boussac enterprise, which included Dior. The four brothers, who owned the Agach-Willock Group, bought Boussac for $175 million, finishing the deal in 1980. But less than 2 years later, the Boussac division in the Agach-Willock Group went bankrupt, although Dior remained the only profitable part. This division, making up a third of the company's sales, needed $70 million in external help. A New York Times article from July 7, 1981, reported that the Agach-Willock Group, a major textile and retail company with about 20,000 employees in France, was in serious financial trouble. This group included both the Christian Dior fashion house and the struggling Corvette chain in the United States. And Arnault had just the plan ready. Arnault made his first move in 1984 when the French government was offering subsidies to any businesses that could rescue Boussac. With $15 million of family money and $65 million in financing from investment firm Lazard Frères, Arnault formed a holding company called Agach Financier and acquired the bankrupt Boussac for no other reason than to get Dior. The highly effective, but some said ruthless methods he used to turn around Boussac made Arnault known as a force to reckon with in French business. For example, he focused on the two core assets that he knew he could scale, which were his Haute Couture prize and the Bon Marché department store. He proceeded to make the company solvent by selling off most of the other businesses and firing 9,000 workers. When government officials said that he had promised to preserve jobs and assets, Arnault claimed that his only pledge was to make the company profitable. These mass layoffs earned him the nickname Terminator, but admirers congratulated him for leapfrogging from his family's $15 million a year business to a company 20 times as large. When Arnault took over, Christian Dior's couture division wasn't making money, but he saw it as essential to the brand's prestige. Instead of selling it off, he created Christian Dior SA as the holding company for the couture division and revitalized the brand by hiring fresh talent, surprising the industry. He made waves by recruiting Italian designer Gianfranco Ferre to replace Marc Bowen as artistic director, and then stirred things up again in 1996 by appointing the bold British designer John Galliano to succeed Ferre. To critics, Arnault said, "Talent has no nationality." To maintain Dior's image of quality and exclusivity, he and his team cut the number of Dior licensees and franchise boutiques from 280 in 1989 to less than 150 by 1992. With Dior as the cornerstone of his future empire, Arnault began acquiring exclusive brands that met his only the best criteria. He bought the houses of Christian Lacroix and Celine, as well as Dior Fragrance and Givenchy Fashion and Fragrance. As he did with Dior, he canceled licensing deals he thought were hurting the brand. That was a strategy he used in many luxury acquisitions over the next 30 years. Now, let me tell you about how he took over another extravagant brand. In 1987, with $500 million from selling off Boussac businesses, Arnault set his sights on his next luxury target, Moet Hennessy and Louis Vuitton, which had merged into LVMH that year. What Arnault did next is often seen as his most famous and successful power move. He first invested in LVMH at the invitation of Louis Vuitton's CEO, Henri Rackemeyer, who wanted his support to strengthen his position against Alain Chevalier, the CEO of the larger Moet Hennessy. Since the merger, Rackemeyer and Chevalier had been constantly feuding and suing each other, giving Arnault the perfect opportunity. By the time Rackemeyer realized Arnault had his plans, Arnault had enlisted Lazard Frères, the UK liquor giant Guinness, and both the Moet Chandon and Hennessy families to help him secure a 45% controlling interest in LVMH. After Chevalier stepped down, an 18-month court battle between Arnault and Rackemeyer ended in 1989, with the courts deciding in Arnault's favor, marking the end of one of the fiercest battles in French fashion. Once Arnault ousted Rackemeyer, he fired all the senior Vuitton executives and started turning the fragmented LVMH into what he called a luxury goods supermarket. In the 1990s, Arnault went on a buying spree, acquiring brands across the luxury spectrum from fashion and watches like Tag Heuer to cosmetics like Sephora and wine and spirits. He also expanded LVMH's presence beyond Europe and North America to Asia, South America, and Australia. Over the next 3 decades, Arnault brought top luxury brands in fashion, cosmetics, and beverages under LVMH. He made brilliant business moves that even impressed his critics. Many credit his success to his unique ability to balance creativity with profit, understanding both the creative and financial sides of the luxury business. In the decade after Arnault took over, LVMH's value went like a shot, multiplying 15 times, with sales and profits increasing 5-fold. By 2011, under Arnault's leadership, LVMH owned or had stakes in 5 of the top 10 luxury brands. Louis Vuitton was the world's most valuable luxury brand for the 6th year in a row, valued at $24.3 billion, which was more than Hermes, Gucci, and Chanel combined. It also ranked 26th among the top 100 companies across all industries, with Apple at number 1. LVMH's high standards and craftsmanship create a sense of exclusivity, even when some products aren't as exclusive as they seem. However, Arnault continued his acquisition spree with the German luggage brand Rimowa in 2016, and the luxury travel group Belmond in 2018. In 2019, he made the biggest deal in luxury history by acquiring Tiffany Co for $16.2 billion. Despite the 2020 pandemic causing delays and disputes, Arnault closed the deal at $420 million less than the original price. Arnault was particularly drawn to Tiffany for its unique brand identity, noting, "It's the only brand I know that owns a color." In 2019, the Financial Times described Arnault as having a compulsion to possess beautiful brands and transform their creativity into profits. Over 4 decades, he turned LVMH from a nearly bankrupt French textile company into a global powerhouse with 46.8 billion euros in sales and over 70 top luxury brands. A 2020 New York Times article on the Tiffany acquisition highlighted Arnault's skill for winning deals. A luxury executive noted that while Arnault uses Wall Street tactics to acquire brands, he thinks long-term and holds on to them. He's a strategist, not a gambler, willing to put ego aside for results. Even when he loses, he wins. Arnault's success is also due to his first-mover advantage, especially in China. He opened the first Louis Vuitton shop in Beijing in 1992, just as China's market reforms began. As China's luxury spending grew, LVMH thrived. Arnault believes improving living standards will continue to open new luxury markets globally. That's it for today. I hope you had fun discovering how Bernard Arnault built his empire. Stay tuned for the next video. I'll catch you there.